Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, thank you for your patience. I apologize for the delay. I'm going to explain what the amendments to the amendment do in just a sec, but I believe there's an amendment to the amendment that needs to be pulled down.
No, we're fine. So, members, there's an amendment to the amendment by Mr. Leach. The clerk will please read the amendment to Mr. Leach's amendment.
Amendment to the amendment by Leach.
Chair recognizes Mr. Leach to explain his amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, again, I appreciate your patience, and I so appreciate Chair Davis for working with me on this. The amendment as filed, members, as you'll see, would have redirected $18 million from the Moving Image Industry Incentive Program to the Healthy Texas Women's Program. As you know, members, the Healthy Texas Women Program is providing essential women's health services, and I so appreciate Chair Davis and so many others who are working to make sure that program is robust and is providing the services that are necessary to women across the state. My amendment to the amendment, which Chair Davis and others have helped me with, I want to say thank you as well to my colleague Donna Howard. What the amendment to the amendment is going to do, and it's going to be acceptable to the author, is going to take that $18 million and ensure $15 million of it is directed to provide contingency funding to extend the existing Medicaid benefit for new mothers from 60 days to 12 months. Under Texas Medicaid, new mothers have full Medicaid benefit for 60 days after delivery. However, more than half of maternal deaths in Texas occur 60 days or after delivery. Almost 70% of these deaths involve mothers who were enrolled in Texas Medicaid at the time of delivery. 80% members of maternal deaths in Texas were caused by preventable diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. And so what this amendment will do is extend that Medicaid benefit from 60 days to a full year postpartum. And this is a recommendation by the weight of medical research and the Texas Maternal Mortality and Morbidity Task Force. Again, this amendment to the amendment will send $15 million to the contingency funding to extend the Medicaid benefit for new mothers, and then $3 million of that, 1.5 per biennium, will go into the Healthy Texas Women's Program. Members, I move passage.
Mr. Speaker.
For what purpose, Ms. Israel?
Question of Representative Leach.
Does the gentleman yield for a question?
I yield, yes.
Gentleman yields for a question.
Thank you, Representative Leach. Admirable goals. Why the movie industry?
Well, Representative Israel, thank you for the question. As we know, today's budget debate, as we consider HB 1 as a whole and 307 filed amendments, this is a question of priorities. As we establish and agree on our budget, we've got to agree or deliberate on what is more important for the state to be spending taxpayer money on. And as we consider our roles as stewards of taxpayer money, we have to look at areas which maybe are more important than others. And in this instance, I thought that the Healthy Texas Women's Program and now the contingency funding to extend the Medicaid benefit for new mothers from 60 days to 12 months is simply just more important and should be a higher priority than the moving image industry program.
The movie industry is important to all of us throughout Texas. And it seems to me that this is also hitting where we had some expectations of the movie industry that they're spending some incentive money to hire locally. It seems like this is also going to affect that ability of the movie industry to do movies in Texas and also to hire locally.
Representative Israel, as you know, we have had a debate every year, every session about this industry and about this fund specifically. And I'm not disagreeing with anything specifically. I mean, I would argue that some members may value the movie industry more than others. I simply, by way of this amendment, believe that we can be spending our taxpayer funds better on these health programs for women specifically that need more funding. And
right.
So it's just simply an issue, a question of priorities.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative Israel.
Mr. Speaker, will the gentleman yield for a question?
Purpose is for a question. Mr. Leach, you yield for a question.
Yes, I would yield.
I'm curious if you would accept an amendment to have the money come out of the Medicaid matching fund that funds Medicaid, since you're moving this particular money for people who would be in Medicaid. That's the appropriate strategy to take the money from And of course, the final decisions on Medicaid budget and caseloads and the like has not been made, instead of doing something that actually would harm industry in the state. And I think that's the more appropriate way to do that, because even if we got the waiver, don't you think that it would have to be funded out of Medicaid money that's general revenue that's available for Medicaid?
Representative Coleman, thank you for that question. And your question, your point is well taken. I just simply disagree with the premise that
I understand, but
that this industry needs more funding from the taxpayers. I do not believe that they do, and in fact, I think our taxpayer dollars would be much better spent on these programs.
So it's a punitive amendment.
No, not by any means. I don't believe that the movie industry needs the help from Texas taxpayers.
You know, I hate watching TV and seeing that the state of Georgia is supporting the movie industry, and almost all the new programs are being filmed in Georgia and Canada.
And I'm not fully defunding that fund, Representative Coleman. We're simply taking a portion of those funds and redirecting it to what I believe would be better use.
Yes, and you have your point of view. I'm just trying to say the more appropriate fund to use for women's health, and particularly for Medicaid and a waiver for postpartum depression and other illnesses, is using the general revenue that we use to match Medicaid funds. And so there are a lot of amendments that's the more appropriate use of general revenue, because it's going to have to be reconciled to begin with. If you believe that it's not appropriate to fund the movie industry, then
no,
the better way of doing it would be, if you did get the waiver or the use of it, is that money would already go to fund that purpose under the Medicaid program with that general revenue that's available.
Well, again, your point is well taken, and I believe that we can do both, Representative Coleman. I haven't seen an amendment that's been filed out of the 307 that actually does what you're doing. I would be happy to support that, but this amendment specifically is taking money, not all of it, but taking a portion of money.
No, I'm asking you, would you accept an amendment from me to have it come out of that fund and switch the money that comes in to replace or to fund women's health program and those particular waivers? I've been working on a year's postpartum depression for a long time, but I still believe that the most appropriate place that money should come from is actually be baked in to the budget on Medicaid, using the general revenue for Medicaid, because that's actually what it would be going for.
Representative Coleman, thank you again for your questions and your point. I would not accept that amendment. Not to say I wouldn't vote for it if there was another amendment, but this right here is dealing with where we're taking funds from and where I believe they need to go to. And my question, my factors in drafting this amendment and asking you to support it is asking for a balance of what's more important.
So,
and I do not believe that the movie industry needs funding as much as
you
our
answered your own
mothers
question.
Who are on Medicaid.
So, Chairman Leach, you answered your own question when you said this wasn't a punitive amendment. It is a punitive amendment to the movie industry, isn't it?
This is not a punitive amendment.
Why isn't it? If it takes money away from the ability to attract business to Texas?
I believe that Texas will still be able to attract business and make films here, make movies, to invest in that industry without using taxpayer funds. And I believe that the areas that it's going to, these three areas specifically, need the funding more, Representative Coleman.
So
it's not a punitive nature by any means.
Man, come on. Let me just tell you, I believe that it's noble to want to put the money into postpartum depression and things that we've been working on for a very long time. I think that the way you laid out your amendment, it's you don't believe funding the movie industry is good for the use of state dollars, not that you're really for the use of money for that purpose.
Let me make the point again. I'm not fully. If I believed what you're saying, then I would fully defund this the moving image industry incentive program, which I'm not doing. I'm not fully defunding it. I'm simply saying that
I'm saying there's a better way to
a lot of
fund
money,
what
Representative Coleman. Let's be clear. That fund is still getting millions of dollars of taxpayer funds. And so what I'm saying is just let's take a portion of that and redirect it to something better. And so,
sir, I just asked the question, which would you think is more appropriate? If you thought the general revenue fund that funds Medicaid is the appropriate place the money would come from.
It's all coming from the taxpayers, Representative Coleman. Every single dollar that we're going to vote to spend today is not our money, whether it's coming from GR or a dedicated fund. It's all taxpayer funds, every single dollar.
Of course it is.
And I believe that I want to tell my taxpayers back home
that you want
that
to take
instead of
money
giving
away
it to
from
the movie and
jobs.
image industry film. Okay. Thank you, Representative
Thank
Coleman.
you very much for
Representative
answering
King
my questions.
raises a point of order. The gentleman's time has expired. The point of order is well taken and sustained.